I'm Mindy Peterson, and this is Enhanced Life with Music, where we explore the practical ways music transforms everyday life, health, happiness, and beyond. It is officially December and the most wonderful time of the year. The holidays can be wonderful, and they can also be a lot. This is a time of year when a lot of us are feeling overwhelmed, stretched thin, and maybe running on fumes, whether it's because of academic finals, complicated family dynamics, end of the year deadlines, or just that pressure to make the season magical for a young family. And regardless of when you're listening to this episode, if you're listening to it right when it releases or another time of the year, stress and burnout are unfortunately common realities in our culture today. Today's guest doesn't just understand burnout. She literally co-wrote the New York Times bestselling book on it. And she's a musician. Dr. Amelia Nagoski is here to share what burnout really is and how music offers practical, science-backed ways to complete your body's physiological stress cycle and restore your sense of balance. Dr. Nagoski is a conductor with a doctorate of musical arts who teamed up with her identical twin sister, Emily, a PhD, to write the New York Times bestselling book, Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle. Welcome to Enhanced Life with Music, Amelia.
Hi, it's my pleasure to be here.
At the beginning of your book, you and Emily write about what led you to write the book, Burnout. And I found this story so fascinating. It's a story not many people would guess is the origin of this book. It came out of Emily's best-selling book, Come As You Are, The Surprising New Science That Will Transform Your Sex Life, which I heard her interviewed on the same podcast that I discovered your work on. And she had a wonderful interview too, but a little outside the scope of this podcast. But tell listeners the story of how you and Emily came to write this book and how it came out of this completely different book that she wrote.
Yeah. Emily wrote this book about the science of women's sexuality and just traveled all over the world talking to women about the science of sexuality. And they would come talk to her afterwards and be like, yeah, Emily, all that sex science, that's great. But you know what really stuck with me is this one part of one chapter that's about stress and feelings. And she was pretty surprised. She told me about it. She spent all that time writing about the science of women's sexuality. And then just this little part is the part they really take away.
Yeah.
And I wasn't shocked at all because I had to learn that stuff about processing your emotions for the purposes of expressing them on stage. I learned that in a conservatory setting as part of my musical training. What I did not learn was that I can use that same skill every day.
Outside of the conservatory, in real life.
Outside, yeah. And when I did learn that, it saved my life twice.
Wow.
And I reminded Emily of that, and she said we should write a book about that. And that's
you
what
did.
Burnout is.
And this is the book. And if we have time later, I'd love to have you share with listeners kind of that story of how it saved your life twice. But first, tell us a little bit more about burnout. How common is burnout, and what are some indicators that we may have or might be approaching burnout?
Yeah, I mean, these days, a huge number of people are feeling burned out or approaching burnout. It's important to know that burnout is not a medical diagnosis or a mental illness. It's a condition that's brought on by a disconnect between what you are capable of as a human being and what demands are being made of you. So this becomes the purview of like the WHO, for example, because their job is to talk to governments about how to keep their populations healthy. And if governments don't regulate like how employers treat their employees, then employees are going to burn out if they're being asked to do things that are beyond their capacity as, you know, living, breathing animal people. So we define burnout as the experience of being overwhelmed and exhausted, and yet still somehow worried you're not doing enough. That's not the official definition, but we find it's the one that people relate to the most. It's been officially a diagnosis since the 1970s when a research psychologist named Herbert Freudenberger codified the 3 characteristics of burnout, which are emotional exhaustion, decreased sense of accomplishment, and depersonalization. And
are those progressive elements, or is it the combination, the presence of all those at the same time that he sort of considered to be burnout?
In the 50 years since that time, there's been a lot more research, and it's been identified that in general, broadly speaking, for women, emotional exhaustion becomes the primary experience of burnout. For men, the decreased sense of accomplishment becomes the primary experience of burnout. So that experience of emotional exhaustion is the thing that we talk about most in the book.
I just want to go back to something you mentioned. You mentioned the demands placed on us.
Yeah.
That we feel like we're not capable of meeting those. And I just think that there's probably a lot of us that it could be imaginary demands placed on us, demands that we're maybe creating in our minds. How accurate do you feel that is?
Oh, for sure. There are demands being placed on us that we place on ourselves, but who taught us to place those demands on ourselves? We didn't invent them on our own. There's a very large scale system telling us what our goals should be.
Sure.
Well, like and it's how clean your house has to be, what behaviors your children have to engage in, what things you should be taking them to. Like there's a very clear-cut, unmeetable goal that is set for us. And it is by definition and by design unreachable.
Sure.
And keeping us striving also keeps us burned out.
Sure.
Which also prevents us from taking a look at the wider world and how we can engage to actually make change to that unreasonable expectation.
Yeah. And you talk in your book, too. I'm just going to mention this because it's a little bit outside the scope of our conversation today, but the human giver syndrome is really fascinating that you talk about in your book. So listeners, if any of that is resonating with you that Amelia just mentioned, you'll want to check out the book for more information on that. But let's talk a little bit about the prevalence of burnout. Your book says that moderately high to high levels of burnout are found in 20 to 30% of teachers, university professors, and international humanitarian aid workers in the U.S.
That was 2018. It's much worse now.
So that was before COVID. Okay. And this next stat is probably also vastly different since COVID, and that is 52% of medical professionals are experiencing high levels of burnout. So I imagine that's quite a bit higher now because, what's
happening now is people are leaving that profession.
And there's a growing area of research on parental burnout, and that's another area that I am seeing more in the news also. So we're hearing more about that. And it makes sense because, the expectations of parenting are completely different, even in the 20 plus years since I was raising my kids, but then for sure compared to the 70s and 80s when I was growing up, and then you think back to when our kids were or our parents were being raised. So yes, so highly prevalent. And as you mentioned, that element of emotional exhaustion is the one that's most strongly linked to negative impacts on our health and relationships and work, especially for women. In the book, you talk a lot about differentiating our stress from our stressors. And also the importance of completing the stress cycle, which I found so enlightening. Give us just the basics on how our bodies process stress so that we can better understand the tools that you'll give us in our later in our conversation for managing that process.
Yeah, if I begin with the metaphor that emotions and stress is an emotion, all emotions are like tunnels. You have to make your way all the way through the darkness to get to the light at the end. And if burnout is an experience of emotional exhaustion, you exhaust an emotion by getting stuck. Instead of being able to move all the way through to the end of the tunnel, you get stuck and it starts to feel like a cave, which is, a lovely metaphor, but I'm a very literal person and I need to know what actually happens. So how you get stuck in an emotion it's easiest to imagine in the environment of evolutionary adaptiveness. So if you imagine a little proto mammal going down to the water to get a drink, and sees, oh my God, a hippo, it's coming right at me. And your body responds to this stimulus with a flood of like stress juice. It's adrenaline and glucocorticoids and cortisol. And you all know the things. And it's the fight or flight response. And it prepares your body to fight or flee. There are a lot of effects of this hormonal neurotransmitter cascade. Every system in the body is affected, some of which you are consciously aware of. Like you might be aware of yourself breathing more deeply or faster. You might be aware of your cardiovascular system with your breath, and your heart is now pounding. You can feel your blood and your heart pumping through your veins. And of course, the purpose of this is to deliver more oxygen to your muscles so that you can run. However, there's also stuff that is happening way below the level of conscious awareness. And that includes like your immune system. We don't have like a sensory organ to be able to tell what's happening to our immune system, so we don't notice it. But our immune system gets this message from the fight or flight response to like chill the heck out, because who cares about malaria if we're about to be trampled by this hippo, right? So the immune system's like, oh, okay, I can take a back seat for a minute. Your reproductive system,
Sure.
we don't really have sensory capacity to know how healthy our reproductive system is right here in this moment. But it does happen that in a moment of stress, your reproductive system gets the message that I take up a lot of energy, so I'm going to back off right now, because who cares about babies if hippo? So all these things are happening. Every system in your body changes to prepare you for the fight, the flight, to run, to leap, to jump, to climb, to hide in the cleft of the rock. And as you get there and you've used up all those neurochemicals and you're looking out and the hippo is walking away. It's satisfied because you're outside of its territory and you have used all of that neurological nervous system preparation in order to escape,
all
to
the
save
stress
your own
juice.
life. You burn up the stress juice, and that returns you to your baseline. It might feel like you're one with the universe now, just calm and at peace.
Euphoria.
Or yeah, it might feel like jubilant, like bouncing up and down, and you want to hug everybody you know and tell them the story and sing a song about it at the campfire that night. But whatever your experience of it is, it means that your body has gone through and completed the entire physiological stress response cycle.
That's right there.
All the way through the tunnel. Yeah.
Yes, that cycle. Yes.
Unfortunately, we don't live in the world where we're going to be chased by hippos anymore. Not that would be good to do that, but like the unfortunate part is that our bodies were designed to do that. And the things that cause us stress now, that initiate the stress response, those things cannot be defeated with fight or flight, right? There's the things that cause us stress now, like the pings on our phone and the emails from our bosses and changing legislation. The things that actually make us safe are not fighting and fleeing. And because we live in a functional society, it's really good that we don't fight each other when we're mad. We are polite to each other, even to strangers, even when it's a difficult time. We shove all the anger down.
Well, and I found that really interesting how you talk in the book about why we get stuck. And one of those reasons is social appropriateness. Like the adrenaline, all that stress juice is telling you to run, but you're in an exam. Or it's telling you to punch the jerk, but that jerk is your client. So you're being
Or maybe if you punch that jerk, he's going to punch you right back.
Yes,
so really
exactly.
The safest thing to do is to smile and nod and walk away slowly.
Yes.
So it's not bad that our society has changed so that it no longer matches our physiology. It's not an inherently bad thing, but it does mean that we are left with this incomplete stress response cycle. These like literal physiological changes have happened, and we have not given the opportunity to move all the way through that cycle. So that means we have to separate the stress in our bodies from the stressor and deal with them in separate processes. So deal with the guy who you want to punch in the face by smiling and nodding and walking away slowly. Deal with the rage you feel about that in the gym or at your therapist's office or by getting a massage, or all of the many ways you can complete the stress response cycle independent of solving the problems that initiate the stress response.
Love that. I'm always looking for the best ways to support holistic health and well-being through music and beyond. So when I learned about all natural products created by a holistic biologic dentist, I had to try them out. Did you know that chemicals in commercial mouthwash and toothpaste can be absorbed through the oral tissues even if you don't swallow the product? One of my favorite Living Well with Dr. Michelle products is the Remineralizing Mouthwash. It's alcohol free, so it won't dry out your mouth. And instead of harsh chemicals, it uses colloidal silver to help balance oral bacteria. It's infused with peppermint oil to freshen your breath naturally, and it contains hydroxyapatite, the very mineral your enamel is made of, to support strong teeth and reduce sensitivity. I also love their sensitive remineralizing tooth powder, but I couldn't resist trying their brand new toothpaste. It's not officially labeled for sensitivity, but it's made with microhydroxyapatite, which many people, myself included, find reduces sensitivity. For natural, effective oral care products and 10% off, go to livingwellwithdrmichelle.com and use coupon code MUSICENHANCES10. Link is in the show notes. So tell us, what are some ways to complete the stress response cycle overall, like big picture, but then let's talk more specifically about the musical tools that are at our disposal. Yeah.
Great. So at a population level, the most efficient way to complete the stress response cycle is, if you're being chased by a hippo, what do?
Run.
You run. Physical activity. When people say that physical activity helps you manage your stress, this is why. And at a population level, it is true that for most people, this is it. And if you are a natural exerciser, you already know this. You know that when you get home from your run or your walk, or you dance it out to Beyonce for 5 minutes in your kitchen, and it's like the weight of the world has lifted off your shoulders. And you know, if you're a natural exerciser, this works for you. That's Emily. That's my identical twin sister raised in the same house with me. Identical twin, raised in the same house, have never experienced that. I'm not a natural exerciser. It doesn't work for me. So at a population level, yes, that's true, but it's not true for everybody. But there's a bunch of other ways to complete the stress response cycle that are not just through that one path. So I just want to, when people say like, oh, physical activity, you have to get exercise in order to manage your stress, that's just not true. Here's one, and probably the most important one. I say, if you're going to change one thing about your life to help you manage stress better, let it be getting more and better sleep. Sleep is more important than exercise every single time. If you are not sleeping well, don't exercise because you're going to do your body damage. Spend the time getting better sleep. And sleep is its own chapter in the book. That's how important it is. But in general, you want your sleeping bedroom to be cool, dark, and quiet. You want to sleep probably between 7 to 9 hours is typical. And everyone who's listening already knows this, right? We all know sleep is good for us. Why are we not doing it? We can talk about that separately. But let me get through the third people's most favorite thing of how to complete the stress response cycle, which is connection. A 20-second hug or a 6-second kiss, something that puts you in close physical proximity to a really special person who you love and trust deeply. This is not a thing you do with a casual coworker. This is what you do with your closest friends and loved ones. That kind of connection can change your physiology in a matter of seconds.
Amazing.
But it doesn't have to be human-to-human connection with animals, with nature, with a loving divine presence, connection with your own inner child. As long as you feel recognized and safe and held in the presence of another being, that's the connection that's going to remind your body. It does not have to be vigilant right now. The world is safe right now, and I can go all the way to the end of this stress response cycle, and I can return to my baseline and feel safe here.
Love that. Creative expression is another way we can complete the cycle. Tell us some more about that.
This is, again, people who know, you already know. If you sang in choir at school, or played in the band, and you would leave rehearsal just feeling uplifted and just better. If during band camp, your whole everything about you changes and you feel like these people who you play an instrument with or sing with, this is your family now. And you get this like intense bond with them, and you can feel the difference it makes to you if you craft or you cook and you're always experimenting with recipes and showing off like these cupcakes you made that are amazing. If you make anything and it makes you feel like the weight of the world is lifted off your shoulders, or that you are somehow at peace or euphoric, that you know that you are a person for whom creative self-expression allows you to take what you're made of, the stuff that's inside you, including this bad leftover old stuff from stress from 30 years ago, and you're pouring it into this booty that you're knitting up made of your rage. That creative self-expression, yeah, just like if you're a natural exerciser, you already know. If you're a creator, you already know. It might be that you have lost touch with doing that thing now, and maybe doing the same thing now does not feel the same as it did back when it enraptured you, but that's okay. That's a normal part of the process. You can find another means of expression that you can get the same high from.
Yeah. I love how you call creative expression a cultural loophole. In
Oh,
your book,
yeah.
you say the arts
Absolutely.
create a context that tolerates, even encourages big emotions. Literary, visual, and performing arts of all kinds give us the chance to celebrate and move through big emotions. It's like a cultural loophole in a society that tells us to be nice and not make waves. Take advantage of the loophole. So I love that quote from your book.
Yeah, I adjudicate a lot of high school choral festivals, and when I do clinics, I very often focus on what is the meaning of this song, what emotion is being communicated. 'Cause a lot of very good choirs sing with good technique and excellent vowels, and they sing in tune and they maintain their parts, and it's very accurate, and even maybe they're doing like dynamics and that kind of expressivity, but they're kind of locked into a sort of perfection of sort of automaton mode of do it right, do it right, do it right. And so I, in clinics with choirs that are honestly, every choir in the world is ready for it. But so, especially if I don't have to talk about technique stuff first, I talk about how, okay, here's how to find your way into actually feeling this emotion that the composer had in mind. Because you and the composer, you've all experienced the same thing everybody in this room has. And when we make this music and we sing this story as if it's our own, it evokes it in every one of us, and we feel connected because this is a universal human experience. And point out often to the teachers to praise the work they do, because throughout a school day, school is hard. School is not designed to be healthful for children. It is the kind of discipline that is required and focus does not come naturally to almost anybody. So the fact that they come into choir class and they talk about feelings, and they're encouraged to feel, to remember times that they have yearned or celebrated or mourned, and to bring that emotion to life right there in the middle of their school, and to sing it and to share it with each other. Yeah, it's like a loophole, like this one place where they have permission to have humanity. Humanity is not really allowed in schools, unfortunately. A lot of teachers try, but like all the regulations make it so that you're not really allowed to let that happen. So I make it a point to let choir directors know in clinic, like, what you are doing matters and is important. And like, thank you for making this happen for your kids. And I know that nobody's telling you this and nobody else values this thing that you've accomplished, but I want you to know I see you.
Yes.
And I see what an important thing you've done for these kids.
Yeah. I love how some of the musical tactics and strategies you've mentioned sort of overlap some of those various methods of
Yeah.
completing the stress cycle. Like you mentioned, dancing to Beyonce. So that's
Yeah.
physical movement and music. You mentioned
Yes.
singing in a choir, and that involves breathing. It involves music, of course, and it involves that connection
Yeah.
and creative expression, which I guess music and creative expression sort of are one and the same in a way. But I love those strategies and those tips that cover multiple areas. What are some other specific ways that we can use music as a tool to manage stress or even prevent stress or recover from stress or burnout? And I'll point out too that what you're about to tell us, I think they're probably tools that we can utilize whether we consider ourselves musicians or not.
Oh, absolutely. There are a lot of modalities for music therapy to use in like an actual therapeutic environment of making music, listening to music, talking about music even, but mostly experiencing music by either listening or making or moving. Which I like as I'm not a music therapist, I'm not really qualified to like talk about those things, but if you're interested in using music as a therapeutic modality, that is available.
Mhm.
But I will tell you that we even talk in the book about, we call it the magic trick, which is a particular combination of ways of completing the stress response cycle that you do all in one combination. And that is moving your body in the presence of others toward a shared goal.
Mm.
So that's your physical body is moving, you are connecting with other people, and you have a shared meaning or purpose. Um, and that encompasses dancing together, attending a concert together, not playing on a sports team. I'll admit that playing sports is also good for you in this way. But singing in a choir and playing in a band, and those things are even better. And I know I can't claim that they're better, but they do accomplish that same magic trick.
Mm.
So if you want to like get there the fastest, find your way through the stress response cycle that's left over from your 8th grade bully or whatever. The way to get there the fastest is the magic trick, moving your body in time with others toward a shared goal. Worship or prayer in church or any other setting where you gather in prayer or song, watching a movie like on opening night with a bunch of fans who are all like really hardcore about being there.
Mm.
That's I mean, that's not so much with the moving, but it gives you the connection and you're all moving through the story at the same.
Or dancing at a
It's the
concert
magic trick.
together, or
Dancing at a
dancing at a
concert.
Zumba class or
Yeah,
some kind.
just being at the concert, the physical presence. I mean, bodies move naturally to music. Like,
Yep.
if you're at the concert, you're probably not just sitting still. If it's, unless it's a classical concert where now we've all been trained that we must be silent. But like throughout most of history, sitting quietly while music happens is not it.
Sure.
That's not what people have done. So if you're at the kind of concert where, yeah, you're connecting with your people, you're swaying, you're bopping, or you're outright dancing, or there's a freaking mosh pit. Like, yeah, moving your body in time with others toward a shared goal, and that shared goal might just be participating in the same artistic
Yeah,
experience, for
or
example,
celebrating together. Yeah, it could be
or
a shared goal.
celebrating. Yeah,
Shared goal. Yeah.
singing "Happy Birthday"
Mm.
is one of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are so many internal muscles that are being exercised through the process of singing, whether it's lungs, vocal cords, other things too. So singing is quite physical, and even playing a musical instrument. I remember when I was pregnant, I had awful morning sickness 24/7 for the entire
Mm.
9 months. I just had zero energy. And there were times that I thought, oh, well, I could just play the piano because I don't have energy for anything else. And that's when I realized how much energy it actually takes to play the piano,
Mhm.
because I would be
Yeah.
sitting there and even since then too, there'll be times where we live in Minneapolis. It's cold there. And there are times in the winter where I'm kind of chilly, but I sit down to play the piano and I notice that it's not like I'm working up a sweat, but you work up body heat by just
Mhm.
playing an instrument, and one that you don't think of as being super requiring a lot of physical energy. So, uh,
Yeah. Even instruments that don't require a lot of physical energy. But I have found just there's no research about this, but in my own personal experience, the musicians who are the most like chill and laid back and really like in tune with stuff are percussionists.
Ah.
They move their bodies so much, and they tend to move in a really strict rhythm, which is unlike, melodic instruments tend to have some flexibility. But when they're really engaged in the rhythm and the moving of their bodies in coordination of rhythm, I have discovered that percussionists really have the most advantage of this. But singing also, evolutionarily, is so ancient. Our bodies are designed to sing. Darwin theorized that song came before language because, of course, even less advanced creatures sing, even if they don't speak. I'm talking about whales and birds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
Singing.
babies can't, we don't know
Babies
language yet, but we can
sing.
recognize
Babies
singing and interpret it. Yes.
Exactly. It is, yeah. So singing taps into something very old in us.
The human
And
instrument.
that's another one of the things I talk about when I clinic high school choirs is singing is ancient. The idea of using your voice to express is so innate. And then we spend every day in rehearsal trying to make it perfect. And we sort of filter out all of that instinctive expression. And then the job in performance really is to get that instinctive yawp or whatever back into the perfect technique.
Yeah. Talk to us about strategies for selecting the best music to help move us through that physiological stress cycle. Say that I'm with a client and it's like that previously mentioned jerk that you're dealing with, where it's the stress juice, the adrenaline's telling you to punch that person, but you're being socially appropriate. But then you get in your car and you drive home, or you're experiencing street harassment, and the safer choice is to walk away and not listen to what the adrenaline is telling you to do and engage. So you get in your car and you drive home. You get in your car. Talk to us about, do we want to listen to angry music? Do we want to listen to calm music? Talk to us about how we should strategically select music that's going to move us through that cycle, through the tunnel to the end.
Yeah, I have talked about this when I teach college. I taught a music psychology course and also just an intro to music course where I talked about this.
Music psychology class. Yes, I want to take that class.
Yeah. It was great. And one of the many things we talked about was intrinsic versus extrinsic meaning in music. Does music have an affect built into it, or do we impose it on it from ourselves? And which aspect of that sort of nature of affect has the most impact on us? And by far, my college students said that the thing that mattered most was what the song meant to them. Not the actual content of the song. Is it fast or slow? Is it loud or quiet? Is it sustained or percussive? Is it, how wide is the melody? That the thing that mattered was that it was the song they danced to at prom. It was the song that was playing when they met their significant other. It's the song that their boyfriend introduced them to the first time that they went to a stage crew building sets, and they all learned to and jam to this super loud music. So there might be other research on this that I don't know about, but as far as I can tell, what matters most is that the music means something to you that allows you to return your body to a physiological state, not by shutting down the other emotions, but by moving all the way through them. So sometimes you need a song that's going to cheer you up when you're sad, and sometimes you need a song that's sad to be sad with you so that you can have your sads until the sads move through the tunnel.
So maybe go with whatever feels innately like you need in the moment, or experiment.
100%. You're gonna know. Your hand's gonna go to the dial, and you're gonna be, or the touch screen, I guess it is now. I'm so old. You're gonna use your onboard navigation computer or whatever it is, and you're gonna know what you want to listen to right now. You're gonna know.
Well, in your book, you talk too about how do you know you've completed the cycle, and it's all you have to do is recognize that you feel incrementally better. So if before the song you felt like your stress was at a 10, after the song you felt like you're an 8, okay, that feels good. You're moving in the right direction. Any other advice on that topic that you want to give?
Participating in the song is even more effective, when you're using more senses and more of your body. So singing along to the song will be more effective than just listening. Moving your body to the song will be more effective than just singing. The more you can engage all of your senses and all of your body in it, the deeper it'll go into your nervous system.
Well, and there we get back to also what we were talking about before with overlapping areas of strategy, where it's like if you can involve music and movement, and maybe you have your friend in the car with you or your spouse in the car with you or whatever, then you have that connection too. So yeah, layer
Absolutely.
up on the benefits.
Yeah. For me, and for I think a lot of professional musicians, we go into music because of how it helps us feel like more of ourselves than we ever have in the past. And as this becomes our job, like the thing that once fed our soul now puts food on the table, our relationship to it changes.
Yeah.
So for me, when I was teaching college, I had my doctorate in music. I make music every day. It is my job. The thing for me that really helped with completing incomplete stress response cycles was horseback riding. I was bad at it, which is completely okay. But it was connecting to an animal.
Yeah.
It was moving my body and also kind of in time and rhythm with this animal.
Good point.
And also like being sort of breathing and being focused and mindful and paying attention to what I'm doing while I'm doing it.
Yes.
It's this other sort of magic trick,
plus you get nature
multimodality.
In there too, in the
and
mix.
You're connecting with
another
nature.
element.
It is absolutely. So these like multi-sensory things, because it's perfectly normal for pros to sort of lose what your old relationship was to whatever you used to do as creative self-expression. So by all means, do another thing.
Yeah.
But I did, and it was great.
Well, I know we're running out of time here, and I want to respect your time, but I want to ask you one more thing specific to musicians and educators before we kind of move toward wrapping up, because I've heard you say that the biggest lie for musicians is do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And you
I
said,
hate that saying.
Yeah, well, tell us more. Tell us why you hate it and what you feel the truth is.
I love music more than any other thing. I love my like animals and people more than music, but like in terms of experiences I have in my life, music making is absolutely at the top of the thing. I learned how to be a person on the podium before I learned how to be a person in real life. Like it's really important. But the idea that I'm a professional musician and people are like, "Oh, that's nice work if you can get it or whatever." There's no such thing. Cuz first of all, when you're making music for someone else, for an audience, you're selling a product, you have to conform to external expectations. You're not just doing it your way. It is no longer creative self-expression. It is no longer just doing a thing you love. It is work.
Sure.
And it is a disillusioning experience to have been told that if you do work you'll love, then it won't feel like work. That's enraging that people do that. It sets up a standard that's unrealistic, and you start to feel the abyss between who you are and what your experience is and what the world tells you it ought to be. I totally hate that.
Yeah. Well, and back to that earlier stat that we mentioned, teachers, educators are 20 to 30% and more now likely to have moderate to high levels of burnout. And musicians and educators both tend to be underpaid, underappreciated.
They have
overworked.
Unreasonable expectations set for them in terms of the number of hours they work, the goals they're meant to achieve that are not goals that they set. They're not even goals that other teachers set. It's goals set by Betsy DeVos, who literally knows nothing about education. So, like, how enraging, how frustrating to have to strive to meet these unmeetable goals, these goals that aren't even yours.
Sure. Well, I want to just read one more quote from your book that I loved to sort of wrap things up here. And this is what your book said. It said, "To be well is not to live in a state of perpetual safety and calm, but to move fluidly from a state of adversity, risk, adventure, or excitement back to safety and calm and out again. Stress is not bad for you. Being stuck is bad for you." Love that
Yeah.
quote. So hopefully this
Yeah.
conversation will prompt people to get your book to read even more about how to move through that physiological stress cycle for greater health and equilibrium and balance, and pull music in as much as possible as a strategy and a modality for doing that. Well, Amelia, as you know, I ask all my guests to close out our conversation with a musical ending, a coda, by sharing a song or story about a moment that music enhanced your life. Do you have a song or story that you can share with us today in closing?
I have both, and they're
Perfect.
related. There's a story we tell in the book about a time when Emily was the wellness director at Smith College, and she was putting on a program to like encourage and teach her students about ways to maintain their wellness. And she was using as a structure the movie Frozen, which was big at that particular
Yeah.
moment. And she was like, "Wow." So I was teaching college music. She was a college health director, and she was like, "Okay, so college music, how do you college music this?" I was like, just make it a sing along, because
Yeah.
the thing they need is to experience the
Mm.
making of the music. And I wasn't there, but Emily reported back that it was like the most impactful thing she ever did in her career at
Aw.
Smith. I mean, she like reduced deaths by drinking while she was there too, but like a
Oh.
particular night where these highly driven, intense, intellectual women were just filling the auditorium and singing like "That perfect girl is gone," like so loud you can hear it on the quad outside. And Emily's reflecting that like, oh, these women did not need this talk about their autonomic nervous system. They needed this experience of pouring their hearts out. Because that's an experience of the thing we call the Uber bubble, which is that what you achieve in the magic trick is this Uber bubble, this sense that you are like all one and elevated to this lofty state that humanity is capable of, sort of above and beyond our mundane daily existence.
Mm.
And I have a song that I wrote after the book came out about the bubble, that we call the bubble of love, which is the way that it's the means by which you can remind yourself that those external expectations are made up. I want to say bullshit, but I don't know if swearing's okay. And that you are safe in your own little herd of friends. So this is the Bubble of Love song. I'm going to open my file
Awesome.
here.
Wonderful.
I want to do and be everything that the world has demanded of me. Sometimes I feel I won't deserve love, not until I'm productive enough. That's when I need supplementary help to reinforce my boundary. In my bubble of love, I am enough. In my bubble of love, they're people who care about my well-being as much as I care about theirs. We guard each other from outside messages, showing each other we care. 'Cause I wanna want and like all the goals that the world has set for my role. Sometimes I fear I don't deserve love, not until I'm successful enough. That's when I need supplementary help to mind what gives life meaning. In my bubble of love, I am enough. In my bubble of love.
Thank you to Dr. Amelia Nagoski for sharing these insights on burnout and how music can be utilized as a strategy for moving through the physiological stress cycle to prevent or heal from burnout. I hope this conversation gave you a greater understanding of the science behind emotional exhaustion and some practical tools for finding your own best ways to move yourself through that tunnel of stress or other emotions so you can emerge on the other side rather than getting stuck. There's a link in the show notes to Amelia's book, Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle. And I'll also include a link to a song that I found especially helpful this time of year when my kids were young. That's when I really felt the holiday stress because of all the extras that parents are trying to do around the holidays. Shopping, decorating, baking, traditions, probably traveling, and just making magical memories for their kids. During that stage, I especially love the song, I Need a Silent Night by Amy Grant. And I would listen to that on repeat to calm myself down before bed. I'll put a link in the show notes. You can always connect with me on email, mindy@mpetersonmusic.com, Facebook, Instagram, X, or LinkedIn, and by signing up for my monthly e-newsletter. Thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing the show. Until next time, may your life be enhanced with music.